Hi everyone. Today is Saturday, November 27th. Let's get started with Bitcoin as usual. Very interesting. This level was so important. Of course, S3 was given long back, but there is another technical point which is very simple. You can also draw, that is this trend line. If you start the trend line from July and then touch September low, then you get this level. You see, you get this level. So it's so interesting, and both these are kind of identical, similar if not the same. Nothing is same. It patterns are not repeated, but glimpse of very these are very much similar, alike, you may say, pattern. So there is a loop and there is another loop, right? So both the times, now it has, so first it landed here, that gives a trend, okay, the angle, so to speak, the main one, right? And then this was a retest, went up, moved sideways, topped out, corrected, landed again here. So what does it mean? That this S3 and this trend line becomes critical, right? And there's another point, which another technical point, right, which is the high of this. My bad, it's taking it. Oops, this magnet sometime. You see this one. So when I gave S3, to be honest, I didn't give from this point. I just saw this. I didn't give this S3 based on it. But yeah, so what you could see here is also the beginning of this particular wave, which started slowing down from here, right? So when it broke above, it came down. Let me zoom in. You see, when it broke above, it this is a throwback, right? It came down to this one. If you consider this as a resistance from this, because this was a point of rejection, right? A major one. So if you draw a line, then this is a breakout, this is throwback, consolidation, and moved up so far. And then this is another bigger throwback, because it has returned back, right? So on a longer run. So very interesting that it has returned back. So what you see here is, if you put all everything together and say this is my key level, or I would mark it as a red, to indicate it's so critical. So from three different point of view, I would say this particular level that we saw around 53k range was super critical, right? It also means that it has to stay above it, and that becomes our guide, so to speak, right, for any kind of planning. So as long as BTC doesn't breach this level, conservative point of view, S3, there is no major trend level issue I see for BTC or alts. So we are good. We are good at this moment, and things are getting better with the ongoing bounce we see, right? So that's a good news, really good news for us. Really good news. So I hope, so this is on 12 hours. I Because certain things are visible on 12 hours. Now this is one day with more clarity. As you could see, nice, it followed the nice trend here. If I may hide the drawing for a while, there was a steep drop. This is because of the news. I'll also add one thing, that whatever I said, everything looks positive because it didn't break below the critical level. But the reason why it dropped recently, especially this one sharp movement, is not crypto specific, is not Bitcoin specific, it is because of the COVID news that has come up. It also means that if in coming days, if we hear bad news, right, then it is likely to impact, because that's what we are seeing here. It happened in 2020, last year, March 2020. We all know that what happened. In that case also it dropped but quickly recovered, right? So sometimes the news event, they, big players would secure their fund because they don't know how it will pan out, and then they would re-enter later once they see positive information or positive development, right? But as and when things and sometimes these are automated bots, they would trigger risk if they see event that is likely to impact economy. And also interest rates are going up, so in some region, some countries, and also tapering, that in the US is happening. So, and inflation is rising, so the central government will um, put a control on amount of money being printed. So there is going to be liquidity crunch, not a crunch but scarcity compared to previous months. Still money is being printed, but the point is that is changing, right? It is not the same rate, it is not the same cash flow. So the ease of money is, the money is not as easy as previous months. That's my point. When I say money, I meant cash. So when the bad news like this comes, it impacts even further because people would like to preserve some cash. That's my interpretation. Okay, so the message is, I think we have to keep an eye on the news. If this new variant spread beyond Africa, or that specific region, South Africa, or around those countries, and enter, I heard a case in Belgium. There is no official case reported in the US, but if there are more cases reported, then things might change, and in that case we have to see the impact. That is for future, that is for coming days. So as far as today is concerned, it's trying to recover and looks in the right path, and I think the bounce is very positive. It's There's nothing to worry about it at this moment, right? And we know the levels, right? And you are supposed to set alert on this level. And BTC, whether you have BTC or you don't have BTC, it doesn't matter. You're supposed to have alert on BTC, right? Okay, so the one day is okay, as we saw it bouncing, same thing. Let's have a quick look at weekly. The weekly is still red. Weekly is not okay yet, right? If you look at only weekly, this is not good enough. We would like to have 5960K kind of a level, which is the previous level I mentioned. So see, it has to break above S2 minimum. S2 will give us some comfort. If I talk from um, this candle point of view, we would like to see green candle, right? Today is Saturday, tomorrow is Sunday, weekends tomorrow, right? So it is possible that this candle ends up with a red. However, starting next week, if this bounce continues, then we should see improvement. Something similar to this one, maybe, right? If we see that, so this is what we would like to see next week. So this week I don't see any major pump, unless we see, usually weekend is slow. There are some exception, but usually that's the case. And yeah, so we would like to see Bitcoin breaking above 60K. That's a condition, right? That condition doesn't change. because if you look at just from weekly point of view, it is going down at this moment, not crashing, it is going down the direction. And again, this, when I say going down, means on a weekly basis it's going down, but as far as if I zoom out, there's this is the main trend, right? And this was consolidation, and this was a breakout, and this is a sudden counter trend that we are seeing, kind of unexpected, but we had identified. And I, as I mentioned, this is much before this COVID news, so I would not tie up this move with COVID, by the way. So don't, um, maybe in future somebody might forget and remember only COVID thing, but reality is the this particular drop started much earlier. But what happens is information fades out, and over time, what people would remember, if it goes down because of COVID, let's say, they'll remember it is because of COVID. But in reality, whatever is the reason, it started much earlier. Who knows if this was known to some people? Who knows? Because I read in the news that this particular variant was found a few weeks ago. That was the statement from one of the news agencies. That means not everybody was aware. Who knows if some resourceful people were aware? So the I usually, being a TA, I don't get into the reason part, because I mean, it's not that I ignore it, but that's not my focus. I always believe, like I give an example of seismograph. The seismograph is to measure earthquake. Now, when you have seismograph, it is good enough for you to manage risk. It will tell you there is earthquake and you have to get out or prepare something. It will start the tremor, and it will indicate before it peaks out, right? And also it gives information about potential aftershocks and all. So in short, seismograph, if you have seismograph, it will tell you what is happening. The focus is what, okay, and how serious it is in terms of scale. It doesn't tell you why, whether there is a geothermal issue, whatever is the plate issue, whatever is the issue, root cause, the seismograph doesn't tell you. And to be honest, you don't need to know unless you are a scientist. And if you are ordinary citizen, the seismograph is telling that there is earthquake starting up, and there's earthquake, there is a major, then you have to basically listen to it. You if you are a scientist, you go there and investigate that. So the what and how part I'll put into one category and relate that with charting, right, which is seismograph in this example. And why part is someone who is a scientist want to find root cause. That is nothing to do with trading. Even if you find why, okay, the why is important later, but when it happens, the what part is important. What is happening, how bad it is, let's act on it, and then find out what happened really. And why it happened, sorry, why it happened. And then you see that that information is useful, that if it reoccurs. But my point is, the chart is going to tell you upfront. Chart is a front runner. Chart gives you signal much before the why news comes out. That's my experience. And seismograph is the best example. The needle will tell you, the graph will tell you there's some activity, earthquake activity. Then you will hear from the news agency that there is new, because they are going to, of course, the news travel late in this exam. Similarly, when there is news, the resourceful people come to know first. They take action, and their action is reflected on chart. If the news has no impact on buy sell activity, then that news has no meaning, because ultimately we are in the game of trading. If there is no buy sell activity, then what is that news? Just for information. So news is important, but chart will tell you before the actual news comes. That's my experience. So that's why I focus on news, just to understand the severity later on if it reoccurs. But point is, even if there is no news, and the chart information is good enough. That's my point, and it will tell you. So coming back to my point, that the recent drop is because of COVID news, but the Bitcoin started dropping much earlier, as we see and as we know, in fact. So there is something, right? Let's, I think, keep it simple, that that has to be improved, and Bitcoin has to go back to 60K plus. Any otherwise, this one day bounce is just illusion. And what we saw 12 hours and one day is positive, nothing to be ignored, nothing to be, I mean, we should not ignore that things are in, I mean, it's trying to bounce and all, but without forgetting the big picture. Big picture is only revealed if you look at the weekly chart, right? And that's why this weekly call is important. But I started with 12 hour and one day to show you that right now this trend line is not breached, it landed there. So it's important, right? And the same time also means that that's a critical level for us to monitor, right? So the conservative approach for trading still goes on until it breaks above 60K. What I mean conservative, it doesn't mean that if you see opportunity you do nothing, but keeping the big picture in mind, that whatever I'm buying is not necessarily for weeks and days. It could be for a day or two, it could be for hours, sometimes, right? But point is, when you buy, right, consider that it is for short term, unless until you see Bitcoin breaks above 60K. That's my message. And it is not for any coin, for all the coins, right? So if you see opportunity, for example, GRT is pumping right now, right? That's positive. How can we ignore that it's not positive? But consider that DRT is not going to diverge as far as historical data are concerned. So not to ignore what is happening as far as GRT bounce is concerned. I'm taking it as an example. It's not that you wait for BTC to go above 60K and then only you will touch other. No, that's not what I mean. What I simply mean is that there is a short-term opportunity. You take it if you see opportunity, right? I am highlighting opportunity, but without forgetting that there is a difference between bounce and few percentage of run versus trend, right? So as far as trend is concerned, if Bitcoin has to go above, make new all-time high, it has to achieve 60K. Anything less than 60K, I'm not happy. It's not good enough for me being a TA. So that's my message. Okay. So right now it's not crashing. It hasn't broken below S3. So it's in a phase where it has to decide which way it has to go. Right now it is near S3, so we are conservative. As soon as it goes above or near 60K, we can open up more, right? And say, okay, now we don't have to think about it. So that's my take, right? So it's very important we understand. Sometimes we we are so feared sometimes, and one day like this we see everything green and we excited, because it's human nature. And I don't want to kill your excitement, okay? I just want to bring the stability here and distinguish that short term bounce and a long term trend. You have to see these two things separately, right? For short term, things are getting improved, but for long term trend, we want Bitcoin to be above 60K. I hope that is very clear with everyone, because this is important, uh, distinguish, I mean, important boundary, or I would say, yeah, these two things are so different that need not have to be mixed up. Right. So those who are doing swing trading, they need to understand that Bitcoin has to break above 60K. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. I think I have nothing more to add. We can have a quick look at monthly just to see how the monthly would be red, as you could see, because the last 2 weeks. Now If you look at monthly candle, the candle body is getting bigger, right? It is bigger than the wick. If you this is a very simple strategy. If you don't have to be an expert TA, but I'm giving you very um I don't know, maybe it's publicly available information, but might not be explicitly mentioned. But I'm sharing with you that when you see the body bigger than the candle wick, and there is no wick on the bottom, that means the trend is on the downside. Okay, trend is not broken, but the current trend is downside. Okay, so right now, as you see, for an example, if I go back in past and assume you are somewhere here, right? So this candle, right? This candle is a sign that there is kind of a slowdown, right? This candle, the latest red candle that you see on my screen on the right top corner, is not a conclusive candle. Okay, it's a doji one. Body is very thin, it doesn't tell you the exact direction, in fact. So but it is an indicator that whatever run we saw, right, there is a slowdown or some kind of consolidation. So we have to understand that, and then we zoom up, then we fast forward, and then the next month starts with a red candle. And when you see the body is getting bigger and especially break below this, then it's a serious matter, right? Because it broke previous month low. Wherein, if you look at starting from March, look at the how the month is ending, right? Except this one, even if this month ended, it didn't break the previous low, so the close was not below the low. All this one were making higher levels until this candle. I hope this simple TA technique will help you understand the big picture. Okay, then comes next month. You see that the body of the candle that you see, you have to give me a tip for this, okay? Because uh, this is very useful info. Those who do not see weekly, I see how many people actually see weekly. They're going to miss this. Don't tell anyone, okay? People don't look at weekly report, and I share so many things in weekly. They think that I'm talking about only direction. They're wrong, and so don't tell anyone. Now you see, when you look at what is happening, the body is shrinking and the bottom wick is getting bigger, right? What does it mean? That it is less aggressive and showing positive sign, right? Reverse than this one. So this is kind of an indication of reversal, and this is reversal, um, like correction, and this is a sign of reversal again, means down to up, right? And then come next month, of course it touched this one, but look at that. So when you see this, that's a positive one, correct? Look, fast forward, progress. Then you see this, this is kind of a pause, but you see the body is not that big, that you still have good distance here. So it's not bad. It's within this range, so you don't worry. And when you see a nice green candle from September, you're happy. But now this is the present one. What does it tell? If it goes down further, then it's a point of concern. I hope this makes sense to you. Okay, and you will appreciate that, not appreciate me. Of course you may appreciate me, but you'll appreciate what is happening here, and you will try to be objective about and open about what is happening. And because if you listen to Twitter and all, you will not get the real picture. Okay, because people with bias, and I when I do TA, I am not biased. I cannot be biased, and I give my reasons, right? And I'm not saying all TA are biased, don't misunderstand me, but right now majority of the TA community is bullish. And I am neutral at this moment because it is below 60K, and I am neutral also because it has not broken S3. If it breaks below S3, I am bearish. And it's like a dimmer switch. You have light and a dimmer switch, right? It's not on off button, it's a dimmer switch. So 60K plus is on, 60 S3 below is off, that kind of a thing. In between is like, okay, it's not a dire situation, fine. But this candle based analysis, hope you understand why it is important, right? So this month is likely to end in red, as you could see, because only 3 days are left. Come December next month, we'll have to see if this next candle next December, so the next month, covers this ground and goes up. If it does, we'll celebrate definitely. But if it starts with red and continue in this direction, right below this, then it's a red alert. And in that case, don't worry, I mean, just use shorting, use 1x. 1x is as good as long. I mean, shorting is not bad. Okay, if you are a trader, then shorting is good as long. I mean, it's nothing. So I explained this for an example. I'm inverting this chart. Assume this is your Bitcoin. I inverted, right? It's upside down. Now it's here, right? The candle color doesn't change. Candle color remains the same in inverted. Now, if this is a coin and if it is going up, you buy it, right? So similarly, if this is Bitcoin's inverted, you would short it if it breaks up a certain level. So shorting is not bad, leverage is bad. There's a difference. So shorting is totally fine because shorting is you're trading in the direction of the trend. So people miss and sometimes think that being long is very positive. It's not like that. What is positive? You have to be with the trend. Because you are here for making money, right? You can love Bitcoin if you want to love, but point is, I believe that you are doing trading for making money, not because you love Bitcoin or any other coin. If you just love some coin, no matter what it does, then it's a different thing. That's not, it doesn't happen. But if you are here to make money, then you have to be with the direction, right? So the key thing is we have to see when the direction is changing, and be with the direction, be with the trend. And it's not on and off, as I said. So when you short, you may short with 5%, always small, tiny. And if it continues going down, hypothetically below S3, right? If it goes below S3, then you start shorting with 5%. Let's say I'm just giving you a small number. it, if continues going down, you continue increasing that number. What will happen is you will start hedging your loss from your long, right? This is a best practice. This is not financial advice, disclaimer, but best practice. So you increase, I would increase short, so it will hedge my loss. And if Bitcoin continues to go down, my short will make more profit, and I'll keep adding short in terms of percentage. So it will continue to make profit. and there will be there will be a point where break even point where it is possible, if Bitcoin continues, continue with downside move, then my short will have higher number of higher size. I would size up my short. It could be bigger, and ultimately it is possible that you will end up with 100% short. But very important point that this transition has to be gradual and incremental. It's a choice I'm giving. Some people would prefer not to short but go on cash, but it's the same thing. Even if you go on cash, you start with small, but I won't be able to say the same, because whatever I'm saying, I said this on S1. It broke S1, it broke S2. So next time, because next time will be too late. So if you have to start this, you have to start below S1, S3, sorry. Otherwise, there won't be any much time. I mean, it's not done deal, but the benefit will be lost. That's why I'm saying. So earlier you do with a small, more the benefit. Not now, below S3. Okay, so you can consider this as an option, right? And if you have any question, feel free to ask me, because I'm assuming everybody's here to make money, not because of ideology. Okay, so just wanted to cover that aspect as well. And I'm recording this session, so you can refer it. And I'm not just saying for sake of saying, this is on record, but not as an advice, but best practice. Okay, so this is monthly. I think what I'll do is I'll end this recording here to split into two files.